Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the TED in Your Head podcast. I'm your host, Ted Moreno, certified clinical hypnotherapist and high performance coach. Thank you so much for tuning in today. So, if you've been following my recent podcasts, we have been talking about how to deal with overwhelm, which I consider to be the trance of modern life, or, if you will, walking hypnosis. In a recent podcast, I've talked about exactly what this is, how it happens. I've talked about how low blood sugar can impact our ability to remain clear and focused. Talked about meditation as a remedy. And today I'll be talking about sleep and how important sleep is to have a healthy, happy life where we can be intentional and focused on moving forward and accomplishing our goals, dreams, and desires. So I'll just say this: I sleep really, really well. I know you might hate me a little right now. People have told me I must have a clear conscience, and honestly, I'll take it. But here's the thing. In my hypnotherapy practice, I hear about sleep problems constantly. So clients come to me for all kinds of issues, right? Stress, anxiety, weight loss, confidence, and almost without fail. Somewhere in the conversation, they mention that they're not sleeping well. And I get it. Sleep deprivation is no joke. When you're not sleeping well, everything is harder. Everything feels worse. And the world feels like a much more difficult place than it actually is. So today we're going to talk about sleep, why it matters so much, what gets in the way, and most importantly, what you can do about it. So this episode is for everyone who lies awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering why their brain suddenly wants to replay every awkward moment from the last 10 years. You know who you are. So let's dive in. Let's start with why sleep matters. Let me start by saying something that I think most of us intellectually know, but don't always take seriously. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity. It's right up there with air, food, and water. And yet, so many of us treat it like it's optional, like it's something we'll get around to when everything else is done. Here's a spoiler alert: everything else is never done. There will always be something to do. Here's something fascinating about what happens when you sleep. During the day, your mental and emotional energy gets attached to everything you experience. Every conversation, every problem, every frustration, every joy. At night, your mind goes to work sorting through all of it. Think of it like going through your mail. Some things get filed away for later, the junk gets thrown out, and your mind works to recover that mental and emotional energy so you can have it available for the next day. That's why when you wake up after a really good night's sleep, you feel refreshed, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too, because your mind did its job. And when you don't sleep well, that process gets disrupted. You wake up still carrying yesterday's emotional baggage without the energy to deal with today's baggage. So here's a simple but sobering fact. If you miss just 10% of your normal sleep, research suggests you'll be about 10% less effective the next day. That might not sound like a lot, but string a few of those nights together and you're operating at significantly reduced capacity. The effects of poor sleep are real and they can be serious. We're talking about irritability, anxiety, weight gain, poor immune function, reduced work performance, impaired decision making, and in extreme cases, falling asleep at the wheel or having accidents at work. I've got to tell you, sometimes when I see a car accident, like a one car accident, like they've gone off the road or flipped or something like that, I often wonder in my mind, were they sleep deprived? Were they falling asleep? According to the Mayo Clinic, More than one-third of adults experience insomnia at some point, and 10 to 15% deal with chronic long-term insomnia. That's a lot of tired people out there. So, what's keeping you awake? What's behind all of this sleeplessness? Well, there are a few possible culprits. Some sleep problems are connected to health conditions, things like chronic pain, depression, anxiety, acid reflux, hormonal changes like menopause, or medications that interfere with sleep. So let me tell you right now, if you suspect something medical is going on, please talk to your doctor. That's really important, especially if you suspect you might have something like sleep apnea. However, for many people, the causes are more lifestyle related. Things like stress. That's a big one. Eating too late at night. That's also a big one, but also not eating enough before you go to bed. We'll talk more about that later. Drinking alcohol before bed. And yes, I know it feels like it helps you relax, but I'll get to that in a minute as well. Caffeine, jet lag, changes in your work schedule, and probably one of the biggest reasons why people can't fall asleep or stay asleep, they're in that fight flight response mode, which is the state of psychological alertness that kicks in when your nervous system thinks there's a threat nearby. This is also called hypervigilance. Remember, your nervous system doesn't always know the difference between a real threat and a stressful, triggering email. Your body will respond in the same way. And here's something worth keeping in mind as we get older. Aging naturally affects sleep quality. Sleep tends to become lighter as we age, which means we wake up more easily and more often. That's normal, but it doesn't mean you just have to accept poor sleep and beware of the myth that as you grow older, you need less sleep. That is simply not true. Now, let's talk about the number one reason why people tell me they can't fall asleep. Are you ready? They can't turn off their brain. Sound familiar? You lie down, close your eyes, and suddenly your mind is off to the races, replaying conversations, planning tomorrow, worrying about things you have absolutely no control over at 11 o'clock at night, solving, or rather attempting to solve, major life problems with your head on the pillow. That's actually a terrible time to solve problems. Your brain is tired. Your perspective is limited. And all you're doing is creating an association between your bed and stress. Your bed should be associated with sleep and not worry or stress, not with dread and not with your mental to-do list. So let's talk about how you can set yourself up for good sleep. Here's what you can actually do. And I want to start before you even get into bed, because setting yourself up for a good night's sleep begins earlier in the day. First of all, watch your caffeine intake. I know this is not exactly revolutionary advice, but it bears repeating. If you have coffee after about 4 in the afternoon, it may be impacting you. I notice it for myself. If I have coffee at 5, 6, especially if I have some coffee later on in the night, 7 or 8 p.m., I will definitely notice an inability to fall asleep. And some people are even more sensitive. So you want to pay attention to your body. Some people sleep better by cutting out caffeine entirely. You need to see what works for you. Next, you want to watch what you eat and when. So heavy meals, rich foods, and spicy dishes close to bedtime can keep you up. Try to finish eating at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. On the other hand, and this may surprise many people, certain folks actually wake up in the middle of the night because their blood sugar is dropping too low. And it's waking them up because if your blood sugar gets too low, your body's going to start secreting adrenaline and cortisol, which are the stress hormones, and these stress hormones will wake you up. So if you've gone too long without eating, you'll get that blood sugar drop. Or if you eat something high in carbs or high in sugar right before you go to bed, this will spike your blood sugar. Then you may have the corresponding drop, which could wake you up. And if you suspect that this describes you, a small protein snack before bed can help. I'm talking about a little cheese, slice of lunch meat, a few almonds, some yogurt, not a ribeye at 10:30, a light snack. Now, you want to be careful with alcohol. I know. A little glass of wine feels relaxing. I like wine with dinner, and it might help you fall asleep initially. But the sugar in alcohol can actually disrupt your sleep later on in the night, causing you to wake up or sleep less deeply. So if you're having sleep problems, it's worth paying attention to how alcohol affects your sleep specifically. Now, let's talk about exercise. Regular exercise is genuinely great for sleep. It releases tension and stress from the body, but try to finish your workout at least 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Vigorous exercise right before bed can actually stimulate you and keep you awake. Keep it gentle if you're exercising in the evening. Some light stretching is actually perfect. Now, if you're one of those people that works out hard before you go to bed and you fall asleep and stay asleep, great. You don't have to worry about it. But if you have sleep problems, focus on light stretching before you go to bed, or if you're going to exercise vigorously, doing that earlier in the evening. Quit smoking if you smoke. Nicotine is a stimulant. Enough said. So let's talk about your nighttime routine. Let's talk about what happens as you're getting ready for bed. This is what experts call sleep hygiene, and it matters more than most people realize. Start by turning off the screens. This one is huge, and I'm sure you've heard this. The blue light emitted by phones, tablets, computers, and televisions signals your brain that it's daytime. It suppresses melatonin, which is the hormone that helps you fall asleep. So try to power down your screens at least 30 minutes before bed. I know that sounds hard. I know you want to scroll, but your sleep will thank you. Now, how about skipping the news? The local news at 11 o'clock is basically a highlight reel of everything alarming that happened today. Murders, disasters, things to be afraid of. This is not how you want to prime your brain for sleep. You can catch up on the news tomorrow. The world will still be there in all its fury and all its glory. Now, let's talk about something that a lot of my clients find very, very helpful, and it's writing things down. One of the most effective things you can do before bed is to get the contents of your busy brain out of your head and onto paper. So we're talking about making a list, journaling, or planning out the next day, putting things into actual time slots. When your mind knows the next day is handled, it tends to relax. There's less of that background hum of, I need to remember this or I need to remember to do that, keeping you awake. So check out my most recent podcast, How to Create a Perfect Day. And I'll put a link in at tedmoreno.com/blog. Now, creating a relaxing bedtime routine is incredibly helpful. Your body loves routine. When you do the same things in the same order every night, you're essentially sending a signal to your nervous system, hey, it's time to wind down. This might look like a warm shower, some light stretching, brushing your teeth, reading a physical book, not a screen, and turning off the lights or turning the lights down. Whatever works for you, the key is consistency. Next, keep your room comfortable. Remember, your body temperature naturally decreases when you sleep. A cool room, somewhere around 65 to 68 degrees for most people, helps facilitate the process of sleep. Now, obviously, you want to keep your room dark. Use blackout curtains or sleep mask if needed. If noise is an issue, like a snoring partner or traffic or a neighbor's dog who has apparently never heard of sleep, then consider earplugs or a white noise machine. In fact, most of the time you can just ask your smart speaker to play white noise and that'll work. And please make sure your mattress and pillow are actually comfortable. If you're waking up with back pain or a stiff neck, that's a clue. A good mattress is one of the best investments you can make in your health. I can't believe what I paid for my mattress, and it was 50% off. But I gotta tell you, it's worth every penny. Now, watch what you do in your bedroom. This one is really important and often overlooked. Be mindful of the associations you're creating in your bedroom. If you watch the news in bed, your brain connects your bed with stress and fear. If you have tense financial conversations with your partner in bed, your brain connects your bed with conflict. Or if you have any kind of argument with your partner in bed. If you pay bills in bed or do work in bed, and I have heard it all, your brain is going to have a hard time knowing that bed means sleep. There are only two things you want to do in bed, and one of them is sleep. Use your bedroom for sleep. Keep it a sanctuary. If you can't fall asleep within about 15 to 20 minutes, get up, go to another room, do something quiet and calm until you feel drowsy again, then come back to bed. What else? You want to avoid long naps. If you need a nap, sometimes we do, keep it short. 20 minutes is ideal. A long nap during the day, like an hour or 2 hours, that can make it harder to fall asleep at night. And here's the other thing. Try not to fall asleep on the couch in the nighttime. You'll sleep poorly. You'll have to drag yourself to bed. Maybe you'll need to turn on the lights to change into your pajamas or brush your teeth, and that little bit of sleep, along with turning on the lights, might be just enough to keep you wide awake when you actually want to sleep. So I talk about sleeping intentionally. You want to make the decision, look what time it is. It's time for me to start getting ready for bed. Falling asleep on the sofa is sleep by default, and it doesn't help your body to fall asleep at will. So keep that in mind. Avoid falling asleep on the sofa while watching the television. Now, part of a good sleep hygiene is establishing a regular sleep schedule. You want to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time, generally, even on weekends if you can manage it. Your body has a natural internal clock, and when you work with it instead of against it, sleep becomes much easier. Think of it as conditioning. You're teaching your body when it's time to sleep and when it's time to wake up. So don't confuse your body. Many of us have confused bodies. Our bodies don't know, is it time to wake up? Is it time to sleep? If we're having all these crazy sleep patterns all over the place, go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time. I know, sounds boring, but if you're having problems sleeping, your body will thank you. You also want to know how much sleep you personally need. Most adults need 7 to 8 hours, but some people do fine on 6. Some people really need 9 hours. Pay attention to how you feel, not how tired you are after one bad night, but how you feel when you're consistently getting a certain amount of sleep. And keeping a journal of that, I think, is really helpful. Now, what do you do when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep? First, and this is important, try not to freak out about it. I know, easier said than done, but getting anxious and frustrated about not sleeping is one of the fastest ways to make sure you definitely don't sleep. The stress response kicks in, your mind starts racing, and now you're lying there thinking about the fact that you're not sleeping, which makes sleeping even harder. Here's something that might actually help. There's research suggesting that sleeping in one long, continuous 8-hour block is not necessarily how humans have always slept historically. So historically, this research suggests waking up in the middle of the night was common and normal. So if you wake up, try not to catastrophize it. Keep the lights low. Don't turn on the TV or your phone. Stay out of your head. Avoid the temptation to start running through your problems. Instead, try some calming techniques. Deep breathing. Slow, intentional breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system. This is your body's rest and digest mode. Try breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, and breathing out for 6 to 8 counts. So this is what is known as box breathing. You can also try visualization. Imagine yourself in your favorite peaceful place, a beach, a forest, your grandmother's kitchen, if that's what feels safe and calm to you. For some people, counting backwards from 100 backwards to zero slowly can be really helpful. It almost sounds too simple, but it gives your mind something to focus on besides your problems. In addition, you can pray, you can meditate, repeating a mantra can be helpful, whatever aligns with your beliefs and your own practice. And also, what you say to yourself before bed is really, really important. So if you're telling yourself, oh my God, I wonder if I'm going to sleep tonight. Oh, it's going to be a terrible night. How am I going to feel tomorrow? Obviously, that's not helpful. What would be better would be to have positive affirmations. Tonight, I allow my body to sleep. My body knows how to sleep. I expect and I intend to have a deep, restful night's sleep tonight. Even if you don't believe it, say it anyway. It can be really helpful. Now, if you genuinely need to get up, remember, keep the lights low, do something quiet, read a physical book, sit quietly, and try lying down again after 20 to 30 minutes. And please, don't try to be productive at 2 in the morning. There's actually research suggesting that if you consistently get up and do things in the middle of the night to be productive, your brain will start waking you up on purpose to get stuff done. And that is not the habit you want to build. And I've worked with clients that have this habit. It is really challenging. Now, there's a great technique out there called cognitive shuffling. Cognitive shuffling is a science-backed sleep technique designed to quiet a racing mind by occupying it with random thoughts and images. Instead of trying to force your brain to go blank, this method gently distracts your mind and mimics the natural dreamlike state your brain enters when falling asleep. So you can do a search for cognitive shuffling. Sorry, let me say that again. You can do a search for cognitive shuffling on the internet, or you can go to this blog post at tedmoreno.com/blog. Click on the link in the blog post, and it'll take you to information about cognitive shuffling. All right, now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention something that I find genuinely fascinating in my practice. Clients come to me for all kinds of reasons, right? Quitting smoking, managing stress, building confidence, overcoming fears and phobias. And one of the things I hear regularly is that after their very first hypnotherapy session, they had one of the best nights of sleep they've had in a long time. So better sleep is often, very often, a natural side effect of a hypnotherapy session. And when it comes to insomnia specifically, hypnotherapy can be very effective, particularly for the mental and emotional components of sleep problems. So if your sleeplessness is rooted in anxiety, racing thoughts, or the inability to relax, hypnotherapy can help address those problems at the subconscious level. Think about it this way. If your mind has learned to associate bedtime with stress and worry, hypnotherapy can help you create new associations, ones that support relaxation, calm, and sleep. And if you're curious about that, I will tell you in a moment how to reach out to me so we can have a conversation about whether hypnotherapy might be a good fit for you. All right, let's bring it home. Sleep is one of the most important things you can do for your health, your mental well-being, your relationships, and your performance in every area of life. It is not optional. It's not a sign of laziness. It is a biological necessity. And the good news is, for most people, with some awareness and some intentional changes, sleep can get significantly better. Start with one or two things from today's episode. Maybe it's cutting off caffeine earlier. Maybe it's turning off the screens at night. Maybe it's starting a simple journaling practice before bed. Pick something and try it consistently for a week. Now, I'll leave you with a few of my favorite quotes on sleep, but first, a little water. All right, so this is an old Irish proverb. A good laugh and a long sleep are the best cures in the doctor's book. Here's another one. Happiness consists of getting enough sleep. Just that, nothing more. That's by the author Robert Heinlein. And my personal favorite, the best bridge between despair and hope is a good night's sleep. That's E. Joseph Kossman. Thanks for listening to the TED in Your Head podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a better night's sleep. You can watch this video at youtube.com/at Ted A. Moreno. And if you want to watch me in action doing hypnotherapy with a flight attendant who has insomnia, go to tedmoreno.com/insomnia. That will take you to a YouTube video which you may find very, very interesting. You can find me at tedmoreno.com, where you can read the blog version of this episode, learn more about hypnotherapy, and reach out for a complimentary consultation. Good night, everyone. Sleep well. And until the next time, remember, your mind is powerful. Use it on purpose and take care of yourself, because the world needs the best version of you. Talk to you soon. Bye.